The grand hall was packed that evening, its chandeliers glimmering like stars over velvet seats and expectant faces. A world-famous pianist, celebrated for his skill and arrogance alike, had been invited to play before a distinguished crowd of senators, business leaders, and artists. As the audience whispered and cameras clicked, one man sat quietly in the corner, unnoticed: Senator John Neely Kennedy. He hadn't come for glory, nor to draw attention. He simply came because he loved music. But what happened that night would leave the entire world talking. The performance began with thundering applause as the maestro, his name revered across continents, took his place at the piano. His fingers flew across the ivory keys, producing sounds that made the hall shiver. But arrogance dripped from his every move. Between pieces, he cracked condescending jokes, mocking anyone who, in his view, didn't have the sophistication to understand true music. His audience chuckled politely, though many felt uncomfortable. Then his eyes fell on John. "You, sir," the pianist called out, pointing toward Kennedy with a sly grin. "Yes, you with the southern drawl. You look like the kind of man who listens to country banjos rather than Chopin. Am I right?" Laughter rippled through the hall. The pianist leaned back, basking in his own cruelty. "Tell me, Senator, do you even know the difference between a fugue and a fiddle tune?" John smiled softly, unshaken. He had endured sharper words in politics and harsher trials in life. "Well," he replied calmly, his voice steady and warm, "I reckon I do. And I also know music speaks best when it comes from the heart, not just the hands." The pianist scoffed. "Then perhaps, Senator, you'd like to demonstrate for us all?" His voice dripped with sarcasm. The crowd went silent, eyes darting between the two men. John hesitated for only a second. Then, to everyone's surprise, he rose from his seat and walked toward the gleaming Steinway at the center of the stage. A hush fell over the room. Nobody expected a politician to sit at a piano, especially not in front of a virtuoso who had just mocked him. John's hand lingered on the polished wood for a moment as memories came flooding back. He remembered being a young boy in Louisiana, sitting beside his mother at their old upright piano. Money was scarce, but music was free, and it became his sanctuary. When storms rolled through and the lights flickered out, his mother would whisper, "Play, John. Play so we don't hear the thunder." And he did. Music became his prayer, his solace, his way of connecting with something greater than himself. Now, years later, standing in a room where judgment was sharp and laughter cut deep, John lowered himself onto the bench. He touched the keys gently, almost reverently. For a few seconds, silence reigned. Then he began to play. It wasn't a complicated concerto. It wasn't a flashy display meant to impress. It was simple, pure, and heartbreakingly beaut.